Welcome into the Pro Football Today post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio. And of course, a lively and a great run-through with the in-game live crew for game day. But we got one game that was kind of a sleeper, let's be honest. Bills completely ran away with that one, closing out the game 47-10. Big night for Josh Allen and company, but we had a more entertaining game on the later slate when it came to the Commanders pulling off a 38-33 win versus the Bengals. A lot to unpack in this one, seeing as how if you watch the pregame show when it came to Pro Football Today, a lot of us thought, hey, Bengals are going against a pass defense that's, sitting middle of the pack in the 20th rank when it comes to defending the ball throughout the air. We thought it was going to be a big pass attack by the Bengals. We thought that the Bengals were supposed to be able to run away with this one. Didn't exactly take place, but Tom, what was your gauge of this one? Obviously, big performance by Jaden Daniels, but not just him. I mean, this was a massive team win for the Commanders, from coaching to every single player that had a hand in this W tonight.
Yeah, I would say things went kind of how we expected it. Like Burrow and the Bengals offense came to life via the air, but their defense is terrible. And Daniels had an awesome game through the air. They were moving the ball on the ground. They were converting third downs. They checked off every box you could possibly want. And the Bengals defense is also terrible. So this game flew over the total. The other game also flew over the total. We had one underdog. Again, they were 7.5-point underdogs that not only covered, they won outright. And then the Bills took care of business. So it was a slate. If you're on the overs, congrats. The quarterbacks, all of them, really except Trevor Lawrence, all crushed their props. Daniels over 200, Burrow over 3, Josh Allen 4 touchdowns. It was a massive game, or I should say slate of games when it comes to scoring, except for the Jaguars. And I saw after the game on Twitter that Josh Allen has now moved to the favorite for MVP, consensus favorite across different books. So that's obviously very exciting if you're a Bills fan, if you have a Josh Allen future. He also has no interceptions through 3 games, which is a pretty big departure from what we have seen from him over the past however many years. They're moving the ball. And more importantly, I think what's good to note about Josh Allen, he's being really effective. 23 of 30 is awesome. And, seeing the way that he's distributing the ball is something that we can break down further. But one really great game, super exciting between the Commanders and the Bengals. And then it was an exciting game if you were on the Bills. If you were on the Bills and you had Josh Allen props and a James Cook touchdown and Keon Coleman touchdown, anyone from the Bills, it was a great game for that. I didn't have too much on the Bills except Dalton Kincaid. So, it wasn't as exciting the other game, but, we had a lot to break down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you put us in a good position to start, because a lot of us weren't really sure, how do we bet on the Bills right now? It's great that they have some versatility in terms of who Josh Allen can go to. Obviously, Josh Allen is known to be this dual threat quarterback. A lot of people still expected at least 1 turnover per game. So I'm sure that's something that many people have still at least angularly betted on. But there's a lot of ways that you kind of cut at the knees here, because you like to see the Bills do well. I'm actually excited for Josh Allen being part of the MVP conversation. He deserves it. They've weathered 2 storms in the beginning of the season, and right now they look like a prime football team. I mean, offensively sound, defensively destructive, and special teams is showing up when they need them to. You're checking all the boxes possible. So kind of just continuing on that one, Josh Allen closed out the night 263 passing yards, 4 tutties, and then you've got him leading the rush group with 44 rushing yards. James Cook behind him with 39 rushing yards and that 1 tutty. But what I love here is, even with the ground game having the potential to work, even with the ground game having space to go, they still didn't heavily lean one direction or another. I think they kept the Jaguars on their toes. That could be saying a lot, seeing as how the Jaguars kind of seemed to self-implode. Not saying that they went out and made a lot of mistakes. They just could not piece together any sort of attractive game. I think a lot of it started with just mental defeat, because they should have done a little bit better than only putting up 10 points versus the Bills team. When it comes to leading the wide receiving room, you got Khalil Shakar with 72 receiving yards through 6 receptions and that 1 tutty. And then James Cook being a little bit of a Swiss knife himself, 48 receiving yards, which a couple people had. I know I had him collectively rush plus receiving yards. But Tom, moving forward, now that we've seen that the Bills are basically considered the real deal, how do you kind of bet them from here on out? A lot of people don't know which way to lean with player prop bets. Is there anything that sticks out to you?
It was a slow game from Cook on the ground. I think that that's going to bounce back granted, again, the second half, as I spoke about Ray Davis, which his prop did hit at halftime. I spoke about his halftime prop. They were in a spot where James Cook didn't need to have the volume on an every down or every other down kind of role. So a little bit slow for him on the ground. I expect that to bounce back. And I still think the Cook rushing plus receiving will be one of the best bets, not only for the Bills, but probably one of the best bets in the NFL overall. He's going to be involved in the rushing game and in the passing game, which gives you multiple paths to hitting it. I know it didn't hit tonight, but again, I'm still confident in his ability overall. It's good to see Allen distributing the ball to different players. I still think that Khalil Shakir will be the number one target guy. And then on a game-by-game basis, it could be a Keon Coleman game. It could be a Dalton Kincaid game. It could be more work from Cook. So Cook is number one, and then Khalil Shakir, and then it's going to filter down just based on game script or matchups for that third player.
Absolutely. And I know that we don't love leaning too far into like touchdown props, depending on the value per se, but you point out a good thing. Shakir is kind of making a clear running for that wide receiver one, but Coleman looks like he can help out with some of those bigger plays. Like, I feel like we could potentially see Coleman being more of the red zone guy as Shakir helps him get down the field. If the value is right, is this something worth gauging throughout the season?
Yeah, it doesn't actually surprise me that Cam Coleman could be a bit of a downfield threat. He if I dig into his A dot, I think it was 11 in the first week, or 11 over the first 2 weeks, 11.0 A dot. That would fill the role of Gabe Davis, what we saw from last year, and Khalil Shakir would fill a shorter A dot role, which is essentially the role that Steph Diggs had over the past few seasons, the moving the chains role, the yards after the catch role. So if things like even out, granted it's only like a 3-week sample size, but if things start to even out, that would actually be like the Keon Coleman downfield role could be really interesting.
I love that perspective. So, all right, football fans, something to note down as we continue to roll through this NFL season. We got more to get to when we get into this Monday night double header, but we're going to obviously talk about the exciting game that was the Commanders versus the Bengals. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid TV.
There's going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Brew Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind L.A., that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with myself, Kasey Hudson, and Tom Vecchio. And we are running through the doubleheader on this Monday night. In case you missed it, 47-10 was the trumping that the Bills put on the Jaguars. And on the other side, you've got the Commanders that came out on top 38-33. We were just kind of breaking down basically like how to kind of, I don't know, I want to say gauge or move forward with the Bills because they're starting to check all the boxes when it comes to a team that's going to put up a big rally in this NFL season. Tom made some excellent points for props and ways to gauge this team, but we got to flip to the other side and we got to talk about these Jaguars. I mean, I know calling it a mental battle is just 1/3 of their issues, maybe barely 1/3 of their issues, but how do we move forward with this team? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence's shoulders. I mean, a lot of people are thinking that this is it. We may have already seen his peak season, and this is enough here. I mean, Mac Jones went into the mix as well. Etienne came out with 68 rushing yards through 11 carries, and then Christian Kirk topped the night with 8 receptions for 79 receiving yards. So a few minimal signs of life here. But where do we go next with the Jaguars?
If their defense is going to be this bad, it's probably going to put them in passing game scripts, I would say, in most circumstances, especially next week against the Texans. If we all expect the Texans, who are a very solid team, to bounce back at home, get their offense out and running. This will put the Jags into a passing game script, which means over on Lawrence passing attempts, under on Travis Etienne rushing attempts. And then if they're going to need to catch up, like if we're going to be seeing Kirk and Brian Thomas as the clear number 1 and 2 receivers for the Jags, that's going to be the spot to look week in and week out. Can we take some shots on Brenton Strange, who, he didn't hit the over on his prop, 2 catches for 12 yards. He did have 5 targets, which is a little bit encouraging. His prop was 23.5. I spoke about the over in the pregame. He did not hit that. I was maybe a bit of a hopeful play because Evan Ingram was out, but they have good receivers. Getting there consistently with Trevor Lawrence, that's a bit of a different story. The play calling, that all needs to be figured out at a team level. From a prop level, I think the over on his attempts, 38 attempts tonight, if they're put into these passing game scripts, will probably be the route to go. So it's, a 48.5 over-under versus the Texans next week? It's 45.5 versus the Texans. We're probably going to see some points, and I would say majority from the Texans side of things. The Jags have to pass the ball. They can't run it. It's all about Etienne unders and Trevor Lawrence overs.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, look, the attempts come in for a big save when you don't know exactly what to expect from a team, but you know that they do have to get the ball down the field, and it's not going to be pretty when they think that they can go to any sort of run game script depending on the competition. Texans are not the team for them to try that out against. Going to another team that's got a lot of pressure on their shoulders, we've got the Bengals that weren't able to pull through with the W today. And look, what they did versus the Chiefs and how close they were to pulling off that win and the many opinions that came on the other side of that loss, I thought that they were going to come in and really be able to have a more demanding presence in this matchup. Not to say that there wasn't a lot of great plays by the Bengals. I mean, they still existed. Joe Burrow wraps up the night with 324 passing yards, 3 tutties, and 0 interceptions. Clean slate here, but they just can't get the job done. How do we move forward with this team? Zach Moss, 58 rushing yards. Chase Brown on the ground, 62. Jamar Chase had a heck of a night. 2 tutties, 118 receiving yards through 6 receptions. But, I mean, it's nothing they string together is helping them pull off a win at the end of the day.
Yeah, again, I think it comes down to their defense. Like, all things considered, their offense was great tonight. Like, they got T. Higgins back from his hamstring injury. This is, like, their best offensive game of the year. Burrow was efficient. He throws for 300 yards. He throws for 3 touchdowns. Their ground game was okay. I said it shouldn't be the focus of their ground game. Moss did hit the over on 50.5 rushing, which I spoke about. I spoke about the under, but he did hit the over. I want to say it's basically due to that one play, that one long rush that he had for 15 yards. Ultimately, the passing game is the focus of the Bengals, and the passing game for the Bengals was awesome tonight. Now, granted, the other side, Jaden Daniels, did his own thing. And having a career game, basically, his first 2 passing touchdowns of his rookie season. But, yeah, we could say the Bengals tore apart a bad secondary for the Commanders. It is what it is. We take a little bit of context. But the Bengals passing game was what we expected tonight. That is going to be the focus of their offense. If they are 0-3 now, and now they're playing from behind the 8 ball, and they need to pick up as many wins as possible, Zach Moss and Chase Brown, this backfield that they have of 2 replacement level players, is not the focus. It is going to be all about Joe Burrow Jamar Chase and T. Higgins moving forward. If we want to throw in Yoshi Voss as that third option, Mike Gesicki as the fourth option, that's where we're going to be going for props on a week in and week out basis. Because if their defense is this bad, they cannot stop pass, they cannot stop the run. Burrow's going to have to throw for 40 times a game, and he's been pushing towards 300 yards, and Chase and Higgins are going to go for 100 plus, and they may still do that in a losing effort.
Yeah, that's true. And good thing that you mentioned Yoshi Voss. I mean, that's a kid who's going to continue to just shine and find his role a bit more significant in this offense, at least in my personal opinion. We saw some key plays out of him last week. We saw some key contributions tonight. So maybe something else to gauge depending on where the value lies on that one. This is where I kind of got 2 out of 3. Burrow hitting that over 261.5, and then those over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That was helpful. I underestimated Jaden Daniels. Joe Lisi had himself a night with the confidence that he has in this quarterback, but he looks really, really good, and I think that he's only going to continue to thrive, but a lot of that does come from clean, very efficient, very excellent play calling. I mean, you can just tell how well the coaches are gelling with the players and the buy-in over there, so it's going to be interesting to see where the Commanders go from there. So outside of that, I had Daniels.
Two quick notes real quick. Spoke about on the pregame, I mentioned that Jaden Daniels is completing over 75% of his passes. He was 21 of 23 tonight. Extremely efficient there, putting him in spots to succeed. I think that is an important note. And then I have to quickly note, Chase Brown only had 7 receiving yards. I spoke about under 9.5 receiving yards for Chase Brown. So 1 touchdown prop for me tonight, one touchdown prop, and then the one – I'm confusing myself here. Brown hit, Moss didn't hit, Strange didn't hit, but we did get the touchdown prop. So 2 games tonight, go 2-2 with the plus 230 for Dalton Kincaid. We have more to get to. Jaden Daniels is awesome.
Absolutely. At least you still locked in too. So I was the same place, like trying to track everything with the 2 games. But we will continue to unpack that one here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show on SportsGrid TV. Kasey and Tom, don't go anywhere. We've got a quick break coming up here.
There's going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio, running through this Monday night doubleheader. Once again, if you decided to just, I don't know, change the channel, pivot for a minute because the earlier game was just clearly a Bills dominant performance, 47-10 versus the Jaguars, and then when it comes to the Commanders versus the Bengals, Commanders charge to the top, 38-33. So some final thoughts before we start previewing the Thursday night football matchup, which Pro Football Today pregame show will be back, myself and Tom. Look, I underestimated Daniels just a little bit, not because I didn't have faith in what he would do. No, I just thought that the Bengals defense was going to be a little bit more hardy out there. But Daniels closes out the night with 254 passing yards, 2 tutties, and a clean slate in the interception column. And he got a chance to use his legs a little bit. 39 rushing yards through 12 carries, 1 tutty for himself. Eckler, by the way, ended up going out of the game for concussion protocol. We'll obviously get an update on that hopefully sometime tomorrow morning. And then you got Robinson shortly behind him. It's McLaurin with 100 receiving yards, 1 tutty, and then it just continues to roll from there. So they showed that they had not only a smart attack to this game, but they have some versatility in their offense and how they can utilize them. I mean, it was just a very well-rounded game for the Washington Commanders. Anything else that you could add to that, Tom, in terms of, like, how well they just played? I mean, they were having fun. We saw fun football from the Washington Commanders tonight.
We did, and the one thing I've noted about Austin Eckler is if he's not good to go, this could present an opportunity for Brian Robinson to get a little more involved in the passing game. Historically, Robinson has never been a massive part of the passing game for the Commanders, but we're looking at 16 rush attempts. He only has the one target, the one catch, but Eckler does play a bit of a pass catching role for the running backs. It's like an 80-20, 70-30 split for the Commanders' backfield with Robinson leading the way. But with Eckler dealing with concussion, if he's out, maybe we see just a touch more for Robinson, pushing towards 20 combined total touches between the rushing and receiving. So that is something to note moving forward. Again, these short, quick passes are a friend to Jaden Daniels, who's being extremely efficient. I would also note, outside of McLaurin, I still think that we're going to see plenty of usage for Zach Ertz, moving the chains just as we saw at that last drive when they needed some big first down. Zach Ertz was the guy for Daniels. So McLaurin's awesome, but I think his numbers, like his lines for his props, are going to be like super refined. So always looking to some of those secondary options.
Yeah, those are really strong options, especially as Adam put it in the pregame show. The NFL is drunk right now, so you got to be prepared for anything and everything as we continue to gauge the market. And I can't believe, it's still so early in the NFL season, and I feel like we have to stretch our brains to think so far ahead or very deep just because of how these games are turning out. So football stays fun. The Washington Commanders definitely had themselves a time, but it's time for us to start looking ahead. We do have a big NFL Thursday night game, and I've told you guys 500 times where you're supposed to be watching that game. You're supposed to be hanging out with us here on SportsGrid TV. You're supposed to get the fun started with the Pro Football Today pregame show. Me, Tom, Dave, and Adam. So for Thursday night, I'm trying to honestly think of where to start with this one because you got the Cowboys taking on the Giants. Some people think that, the Cowboys are one of those teams that are self-imploding, and we have seen them bounce back after dramatic losses as well as drama on the sidelines. Then you got a Giants team that's probably going to feel a little better about themselves after beating the Browns, but who knows? We can only go so far on that one. So what do you like about this matchup?
As I said last night, this is probably just a Malik Neighbors spot. And looking at his line now, it's at 72.5 yards and it's at 6.5 receptions, both minus 114 on both sides. There are going to be times where Malik Neighbors maybe hits the under on 70, still catches a touchdown, like 5 for 65 yards and a touchdown. I will say Malik Neighbors is borderline approaching the territory of a Justin Jefferson, as I've made the reference to other sports. It's like an Antetokounmpo or Luka Doncic, where I do not take unders. It does not mean I'm going to be taking the over every single time for Malik Neighbors, but if there's one bet to make, it will be the over because I'm not going to roll with an under on a player that is that talented. So the lines are probably going to be extremely efficient for Malik Neighbors, and he's either going to blow past it by going for 100-plus yards and a touchdown, or he could fall a little bit under it. So 72.5, I think, is spot on. I think I want to continue to buy in on Malik Neighbors early because as the weeks go on, he continues to put up these massive performances. That line's going to get to 72, to 77, to 79, and we're going to be looking at 82.5 before we know it, and that might be a time to stay away. So buy in now at 72.5.
I like that, and we'll definitely continue to roll with this one and see how we gauge this game even further when it comes to some player prop bets, and then continue to look ahead for Sunday slate. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show on SportsGrid TV.
There's going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Crew has already clinched the National League. Said they're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio on SportsGrid TV, breaking down the Thursday night matchup between the Cowboys and the Giants, and of course, giving some love to Malik Neighbors because what a game he has had, what a performance he has had for this NFL season thus far. But what I wanted to ask you, Tom, because you started breaking down how to gauge him and how you'll probably be betting on him, is that the top receiver for the Ravens only got away with 56 receiving yards. But something that I appreciate is that you always come in with either the angle of attempts or how often they might target a player. So kind of putting you on the spot here, don't know where the numbers are, but maybe is there anything out there that you would recommend in terms of targets?
For Malik Neighbors, his reception prop is 6.5. Like, he's going to command 8 to 9 targets per game. I would have to double check after yesterday's game, but his target shares, I think it's over 35%, which is absolutely insane. Like, he is going to be the go-to guy for Daniel Jones. Regardless of whatever you think of Daniel Jones, and I'll be honest, I don't think too much of Daniel Jones as a quarterback, he is still going to be targeting Malik Neighbors at a very, very high rate, and he can get there on 6.5 receptions, 7.5 receptions. 7.5 receptions may be the edge for me where it's like, that's a bit too much. 6.5, I think, is playable. 6.5 with some juice could be playable. With 7.5 might be a bit of a different story. I will say Daniel Jones for over 1.5 touchdowns is sitting at plus 195. If you think this Dallas defense continues to get torn apart, there's probably a really interesting correlation between Jones touchdowns, Malik Neighbor touchdowns, something along those lines, because that is sitting at some pretty big plus money if this Dallas defense is going to continue to be this bad, giving up however many points over the past 2 games, 40 plus to the Saints, 30 whatever to the Ravens. There's some big plus money out there this week.
Oh, that's something worth keeping an eye on. One passing touchdown came for the Ravens. 3 were rushed in, but again, we know in some aspects that the Ravens know how to beat themselves. Not to say that the Giants don't, but as for the other side, Cowboys, you got Prescott that still puts up massive numbers when it comes to airing out the ball. 379 passing yards, 2 tutties versus the Ravens. You got not much going on with the run game, and honestly, we used to see bigger numbers rush-wise from Dak Prescott. Not that that would be more flattering this year when we're still trying to figure out what the identity is of this roster. Ferguson leading the top of the charts when it comes to airing out the ball. 95 receiving yards, 6 receptions. And I was surprised because he's bouncing back from getting shaken up a little bit earlier in the season. CeeDee Lamb only coming in at 67. We saw drama between Lamb and Prescott. That's obviously going to shake itself out. But what would you kind of gauge betting-wise for the Cowboys roster, or are you just kind of stay away from this one?
There's no prop posted right now, but my initial lean would probably be Zeke Elliott under 8.5 rushing attempts. If it's 8.5, it was 8.5 the other day against the Ravens. It may not be 8.5. It may be down to 7.5. It depends on where the odds lie at that point. Listen, Zeke's just not playing a big role in their running game. Rico Dowell is getting involved, which we love to see. So if they're not going to be running the ball, this is where we turn to Dak Prescott passing attempts, 32, 39, 51 over the first 3 games. Yes, the 51 is very, very high in this most recent game against the Ravens because they were pushing all passing offense as they were down against the Ravens. So 51 is not what we can expect from him. But if we average it out and we look to, I would say, mid 30s when it comes to passing attempts for Dak Prescott, that's what it should be listed as, is my guess. That's a spot to take because if they're inefficient on the ground and they're just not moving the ball and their defense is bad and the Giants are able to get out in front, this is all passing from the Cowboys. It's going to be all passing every week for the Cowboys, just like the Bengals.
Yeah, definitely something I think we're going to be seeing now. Speaking of passing, we did talk about the Bengals, their pass game, their ability to stick to that script. Yesterday, we couldn't really touch on it on the post-game show, but their next matchup will be versus the Panthers, and I wonder if that script will translate. Not to mention is that the Panthers kind of finding themselves in a rhythm with Andy Dalton at the helm. Is there anything entertaining that we will see in this one, and is there a little bit more buy-in with some props when it comes to the Panthers because of Andy Dalton? I mean, I'm curious.
It might be going to Deontay Johnson because Adam Thielen is expected to miss some time with, I believe it's a hamstring injury he suffered when he caught that touchdown pass yesterday against the Raiders. So Deontay Johnson could be the spot to go for the Panthers. That's one thing to note. If you like the Bengals and you have them a ticket to make the playoffs, to win the division, whatever it is, like, I don't want to say like go down with the ship because like I've certainly done that with team futures before. It's like, hey, I already have them. I might as well just bet on them again. But I might be willing to be on the Bengals again. And I think there's too much recency bias sometimes between saying, oh, Andy Dalton was great. He carved up the Raiders for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Bengals collapsed on prime time. Their defense is terrible. This might be the spot to just go with the Bengals because everyone's going to be overlooking them and going to the Panthers. So depending on where some of the public money lies, I may just side with the Bengals if that's what it comes down to.
I actually wouldn't go against that because we're learning that wherever the trend is heavy, the opposite side is shining right now. The one thing I am curious about, though, is that do we probably just kind of steer clear of the spread because that's something that's just getting completely demolished when it comes to these matchups, especially with games or teams like the Bengals?
It could be. If you are worried about the spread, there's probably – I would have to dig into some data over the past few years about – if you're worried about the team spread, like the Bills numbers, 5.5, it was 5, it was 4, like it was dropping all over the place. You know, in theory, the money's coming in on the Jaguars. But if you still like the Bills, you should buy into that number, or you should be looking at a roundabout way, which is essentially their team total. You know, as Dave kind of mentioned on the pregame show, he expected the Bengals to put up 30-plus points, which they did. They just didn't cover the number. So if you're worried about them covering, but you still like them overall, like the team total is probably the route to go. Like, we can make things work instead of like going a direct route. You take like an alternate route and you're still essentially betting on what it is. Like the example I would use is like in baseball, I know I don't want to go too far off, but like if a team's a super heavy favorite on the money line, like minus 200, minus 250, in theory, you should just bet their run line at minus 1.5 at minus 120 because the money line is indicating that they're heavy favorites and they should take care of business. So instead of betting the spread, just bet their points total because that's what they should be doing, covering by 5.5 or 6 points.
Yeah, I mean, look, it correlates and it helps it make sense, but I actually really like that perspective because the spread is just kind of freaking me out right now with games just going all over the board. Entertaining, yes. Helpful, absolutely not. We chatted about this one a little bit last night, but for anyone new tuning in or anyone who didn't tune in last night, we're going to get into this Saints versus Falcons game. And in case you missed it, Tom mentioned that Olave was going to get some action and find the end zone because he was due for it. And the last two times that you have said that, or at least the last two times we've chatted about it, it has locked in. So what do we see against the Saints team that fell to the Eagles, but a Falcons team that looks to have some, I don't know, power on their defense and a defense that can kind of rise to the occasion a little bit more? This could be a tough one between the two.
Yeah, tough one. That total was 45.5. If that graphic is corrected, if that opened at 45.5 last night, if I remember from the show we did last night, this exact time, 24 hours ago, it is down to 42.5. That is very, very important. That's a huge move, 3 points. Two defenses stepping up. The Saints defense we know has been solid. The Falcons defense we've spoken about multiple times. They're like kind of figuring things out. They're starting to put together a full 4 quarters. This is a divisional matchup. And as I said last night, the Saints don't want to like blow this they were 2-0. Like they don't want to be 2-2 after this super hot start. And then the Falcons would be 2-2 if they win this game, tying them in the division. So this is all about defense in this game. I'm not expecting a whole lot of scoring. Maybe some Kamara combined props just because he'll be involved in the rushing and the receiving game. But I think this game is all about the under. Another low-scoring game in a dome, as we saw against the Eagles for the Saints.
Yeah, I very much see this one mirroring the Saints versus Eagles game. Probably a little bit more cleaner execution when it comes to the Falcons moving the ball versus what the Eagles were trying to piece together. But that's just my 2 cents in this divisional battle. We got a few more games to get into for the Sunday slate here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show. Kasey Hudson, Tom Vecchio. And I'm very excited to see where some of these other larger matchups are going to come in. And where do we gauge the totals? These heavy under totals that have kind of been blown out of the water. We got to see if there's a better way to approach these things or just kind of wait and see what takes place. So don't go anywhere. Continue to hang with us here on the Pro Football Today post-game show after this quick break.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Crew has already clinched the National League. Said they're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You are watching Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio, running through the upcoming Sunday slate. We already previewed Thursday, but if you missed it, don't worry. This crew, plus Dave and Adam, will be back for the Pro Football Today pregame party on Thursday to run through that matchup. One thing the production just brought to my attention, me and Tom's attention actually, tonight's Commanders versus Bengals game was the first NFL game since 1940 with no turnovers or no punts. I weirdly use the phrase gross for that, but interesting. Either way, we saw really, really good football from this matchup, and I just can't shake the fact that it was just fun watching the Commanders. I mean, every time it cut to Jaden Daniels, biggest smile on his face. He looked like a little kid playing backyard ball, and if there's one thing that we all come together for, it's for that excitement and for that love of the game. Most of us. Speaking of in division, we were breaking down the Saints versus the Falcons, but there's another in-division battle that we got to pivot to. We talked about it last night. Of course, we'll see if there's any new insight for today, but we got the Vikings taking on the Packers, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Not sure if we heard any updates when it came to Jordan Love. Once again, I don't think that there's any need to rush him back. We did see the Vikings get a little banged up in their victory yesterday, but is there any new approach to this game or just anything we should remind viewers of as we get ready for Sunday?
The note for Sam Darnold is that he's going to be listed as day-to-day. There's no major structural damage in his knee. He should be good to go. He's probably going to be limited at practice the entire week. Jordan Love was out taking snaps on Sunday morning. I assume he'll be listed as day-to-day and limited in practice throughout this entire week. It is 2.5 in favor of the Packers. It is juiced to the Packers side. So, as I said last night, if you like the Packers at 2.5, it's probably the spot to get it. If Jordan Love gets ruled in, it's probably going to move to 3. Maybe not 3.5, but it's probably going to move to 3. And obviously 2.5 is a significantly better number than 3. So I would take it there. I am very, very hesitant about points being scored in this game. If we have 2 quarterbacks that are not fully healthy, it could be a lot of running. The game burns through quickly. There's not a whole lot of scoring. It would lead theoretically to a big Josh Jacobs game, a big Aaron Jones game. That could be the spot to go. But 43.5, I'm kind of liking the under on this one.
I like it too. And plus, a lot of the rushing props. I mean, not to go too heavy on that because I feel like we've talked about that sometimes with certain matchups and been like, this screams run game. And then obviously they flip the script on us. But I mean, Aaron Jones has been so consistent for the Vikings offense, and they obviously have a pretty key football mind running that Vikings team. So I think he can get another big performance. And then you make a great case to talk about attempts and carries. That's probably something else to gauge if the value lays there. All right, Tom, I got to pick your brain on something. I already know you're not on the Bo Nix train. Broncos finally get their first W. A lot of people think they can continue to roll. Nix picks up 216 passing yards versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Run game kind of worked a bit in their favor, but do we think that the Broncos can, I don't know, stack on this win and go up against a Jets team that's feeling like they finally started to connect their pieces of the game?
Probably not. The line was 7.5. It is now 7. Do I want to bet on the Jets? No. Do I think the Jets cover? Probably. Like if I had to make a pick, I would probably go with the Jets, but I also don't want to make a pick on this game. So I think the Jets win this game. I think they probably do cover, but I also, like on the other side of that coin, I also have no interest in betting on Bo Nix. And maybe this is me. Maybe I'm going to be late to the train, and what we saw last week against the Broncos is a sign of things to come. And maybe I'll be wrong, but I'd rather be wrong and not bet it than bet it and be wrong. Like I'm not laying the points, and so it's just kind of a stay away game. I will say 38.5 over under is very low. I would not be expecting a lot of offense in this game. I would start turning to Aaron Rodgers unders on passing. He was very good on Thursday night. This is not the same defense. I would be willing to go under on Aaron Rodgers, over on Breece Hall, and over on Braylon Allen. Again, I'm going to continue to talk about Braylon Allen, and we should talk about the Buccaneers if you want, but over on Braylon Allen, rushing plus receiving.
Yes, with you on Raylan Allen. And then one other thing I will add is that some of the offensive linemen for the Jets did get banged up in this last game. So that kind of also might flip the script on what we might see attack-wise out of the Jets versus a Broncos team that's going to be really feeling themselves after putting a beating on my Buccaneers. I said it last night, Tom. I'm an adult. I can take it. Let's talk about the Bucs going against, not in division, but NFC to NFC, taking on the Eagles. I mean, Eagles, offensively, they still have their struggles, so I'm not completely rooting against my Bucs, but discounting my Bucs. They do have a lot of injuries on defense, though, which is just kind of nerve-wracking. But if they can go toe-to-toe, fire things off offensively, this could be an interesting game. Baker Mayfield has to make up for things that did not go well this past Sunday. So what do you see with my Bucs and the Eagles?
All right, a lot going on in this game. A.J. Brown didn't play in the past 2 games. Devonta Smith in the concussion protocol. This is a Dallas Goedert game. Could be a huge Saquon game. There was a quote from Todd Bowles today, which I retweeted. He said that Bucky Irving has earned more touches, which I said last night, which I've saying for a couple weeks now. Bucky Irving combined rushing plus receiving. Rashad White hasn't been that effective. I still think he's a very good player. But if we're going to be seeing some other players, and I'm saying this in the hopes that props will be posted, because some books just don't post props for some of these depth players, secondary, tertiary options. But Bucky Irving, rushing plus receiving, if those are posted, I will tweet it out, of course. That's what I always do. They will be there. But the injury notes from the 2 wide receivers from the Eagles, with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, that is massively, massively important. Dallas Goedert had a huge game against the Saints. I think he continues to have a huge game, and I think Goddard finds the end zone for the first time this season against the Bucs.
Yes, you have been on Irving from day one, and I'll tell you this as somebody who has covered the team closely, that being the Bucs. Their running back one never sticks to being their running back one throughout an entire season. So whenever you can start looking at the next man up, I would definitely gauge that, because the Bucs just have trouble sticking with one guy, or they tend to get solved pretty quickly. I mean, heading into the season, everybody was high up on White and what he would contribute. Bucky Irving is that guy, and Todd Bowles means it when he says it, that he will be seeing more life on the field moving forward. Something else is that Chris Godwin's numbers typically will come down a little bit after performances such as 50 or 53 receiving yards. That'll jump down to about 50 receiving yards. Slam it every single time. He's always going to hit the over on these things. Like being back in his new special spot, having the chemistry that he now has with Baker Mayfield, and the way that they try to feed Evans, they try to not make it so consistent, so predictable. So Chris Godwin's typically your guy when it comes to the Bucs. More games to get to coming down the slate here, preparing for Sunday, so don't go anywhere. We got another quick commercial break here on SportsGrid TV.
There's going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from, just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Crew has already clinched the National League. Said They're 2 games behind LA. That being the Dodgers trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We've got one more rally here on Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio, running through the Sunday slate after we broke down. We started on the pregame for Monday Night Football. We broke down Monday Night Football once again. If you missed it, Bills take the charge, 47-10, topping the Jaguars, and then the Bengals fall short to the Commanders, 38-33. And then we were talking about the Bucs versus the Eagles, and sticking with the theme of in conference, finally got that one right. We got the Bills taking on the Ravens for Sunday Night Football coming up. Well, I almost said in a few short days. That just tells you where my brain's at. Tom and I were just here last night. Let's get into the Bills versus the Ravens. Both teams coming off of a W here. What should we look at, Tom?
Bills down to 1.5. They were 2.5 last night. If you like the Bills, I think you missed the boat, but still live on the money line at plus 112. I think that is certainly fine. Would not expect as much of a running game from Derrick Henry. He can certainly get the yards, but seeing 100-plus yards is not what we should be expecting from him. They need to evolve the passing game a little bit. We need to see Isaiah Likely more involved. Zay Flowers has to continue to be the guy. If the Bills are going to go out scoring all these points, the Ravens need the passing game to keep up with them. That's where I'll be looking for props.
That is right on top of it. Not to mention is that we do have to see the Ravens be able to string defensively consistent games. I mean, they have had a bit of a sluggish start in a number of ways. So going against a Bills team that's pieced their game together so efficiently is going to be wild to watch. Now, wild to watch. We just talked about how fun it was watching the Commanders. Let's see what the Commanders can carry over from tonight's game into the matchup versus the Cardinals team that's actually not been too bad. So what do you see for this 4:05 game for Sunday?
50.5 over-under is the highest on the slate. If we see what we saw from Jaden Daniels tonight, we're going to see points left and right in this game. If we see from the Cardinals what we saw 2 weeks ago against the Rams, that's where we're going to see the points. Obviously, the most recent game against the Lions wasn't a whole lot of offense from them. Marvin Harrison continues to be the guy. I think that's where we want to look. James Conner needs to continue to play a larger role in the Cardinals, and that's where they're going to have success setting up the play action for Marvin Harrison deep.
And for this one, you think we see Connor with rushing and combined with receiving yards? Because obviously rushing yards came in a little low this past weekend, but he's always been such a workhorse for this team. We've seen him put up monster numbers week 1 and week 2. Does he get back to that monster category?
Ultimately, I say yes. How that gets done, they need to move the ball efficiently, especially on third down. We see the Commanders with such an effective run game that if they're controlling the clock, the Cardinals are going to be forced to pass the ball because they need to catch up too much. So the Cardinals need to get out to a little bit of a lead and be able to trade back and forth while leading a little bit. So they score, then the Commanders, then the Cardinals still have the ball with either tied or the lead. That's where Connor will be most effective rather than trailing from behind and needing to catch up by 2 scores.
And next week, we will be right back here with another doubleheader. Let's get into one of them, one that I think is going to be quite interesting. Seahawks taking on the Lions. I didn't want to torture you with the Titans versus the Dolphins.
36.5 over-under for Titans-Dolphins is not what we want to see. Let's go with this game.
Gross. Yes, continue.
Seahawks-Lions. Seahawks 3-0. Lions got the bounce back next week. Super fun game. Great offensive talent. The key note would be, will Kenneth Walker play for the Seahawks? He has missed the past 2 games. I spoke about Zach Charbonnet last night. He continues to be the guy for the Seahawks. However, we do know that this is a tough Lions defense. It is a tough place to play in Detroit. So if the game script gets out of the way or out of hand for the Seahawks and Charbonnet is not able to see 15, 18 touches on the ground, he's going to have to play a big role in the passing game. I think we're going to continue to see this two-headed back from the Lions with Montgomery and with Gibbs, both going from, I'm going to say, 80-plus combined yards for both of them. And I would say an efficient game from Jared Goff overall. It has to be a big game from Geno Smith if they want a chance to win this or to even cover.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Look, we've got a Monday Night Football. The first game is very iffy, and in a lot of ways you want to stay away, but then the second game is promising all the entertainment, which means Monday Night Football still has something to hold with gold. So next week you've got Titans taking on the Dolphins at 7:30. That total is just gross. There's a lot of things about this. It just has many question marks. Unless you're feeling like you want to take a Will Levis interception. Tom and I have talked about it here on Pro Football Today a number of times. That's really the only way that I could gauge that one. But the entertainment comes at 8:15. Seahawks taking on the Lions. I think this is a quality test for the Lions. Let's see where their consistency lies. Made good offseason moves. We saw that play out with their defense in the beginning of the season. Let's see how they continue to roll next Monday. Make sure you join us Thursday for the Pro Football Today pregame show. Me, Tom, Adam, and Dave. And as for tonight, it's a wrap for Tom and myself. I hope you guys enjoyed the Monday night doubleheader. Make sure you get all of your coverage and updates here on SportsGrid TV. And until next time, guys, we will see you on Thursday.